The DJI Action 6 finally fixes two problems motorcycle creators have dealt with for years, and it does it in a way that I didn't expect. Now, before we get into anything, this video is sponsored by DJI, and that's why this video is not a review. We all know that a review can't really be sponsored because that doesn't really make sense. So my job today in this video is to just go out, test this camera, and then show to you guys what it's capable of doing. I'm not here to tell you to buy this camera or not, and then we can have a conversation in the comments of whether we like it or dislike it down there. That being said, having this video sponsored allows me to have this camera early so I can put this video out the day it's released, and that way I can let you guys know what it's capable of. Over the past couple weeks, I've been testing out the Action 6 on tons of different motorcycles in a load of different scenarios between my MT10, 10RA700, and that loaner 675 SS from CF Moto. I've put it through all of the riding scenarios I think I could conceptually need as a motorcycle rider, and throughout this video, I'm basically just going to be showing you guys the testing because throughout all of that time that I've been using this camera, a couple things have really made it stand out, and we're going to get to those throughout this video. So guys, my overall impression of the Action 6 is that it's just like the Action 5 Pro, but better. So that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually really is. The Action 5 Pro, which has been the primary action camera I've used for the last year, has been by far the best action camera that I have ever used in my 15-year-long career of riding motorcycles and filming myself doing it. It has been reliable, the battery life is fantastic, the footage is great, I've had no problems, and somehow, through all of that, DJI has created a camera that is somehow better. So let's quickly run through some of the new features that the Action 6 is bringing to the table. First thing we got to talk about, and it's a first time for an action camera, DJI has somehow put a variable aperture on this camera. And for you guys that don't understand cameras, that's totally fine. Basically what it allows this camera to do is more precisely change its settings depending on the situation you're in. A variable aperture is something that normally big cameras have. Take my photo camera, for instance, that is what this little bar does. The changing of that number is changing the aperture on this lens, and that determines how much light is gonna come into the camera, and this little thing has that feature. It's insane. So here's variable aperture in a super simple way. Bright sunlight, it closes it down to avoid blowing out the highlights. Dark roads, tunnels, or riding at night, it opens it up to get more light into the sensor. Now this is going to make a huge difference during nighttime riding, and we're going to cover that later in the video. Then we have the new 1x1 mode that shoots a perfect square, so you can crop the footage into both horizontal, like for YouTube, and vertical for TikTok. This new 1x1 mode solves a huge workflow issue for content creators like me who are trying to record all of our rides, and we want to be able to use those rides to post on Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube. You guys are going to absolutely shame me in the comments when I show you guys the rig I used to use to try to achieve this, and I'll show you guys here in a second. DJI also updated their magnetic quick release mount. Now you can mount the camera in the front, or you can mount it backwards, and more importantly, they added little tabs to make it easier to get the camera on and off. And finally, the Action 6 has 50 gigabytes of onboard storage, and that way, if you're like me and you've rolled out of your garage and totally forgot your micro SD card, the camera can actually record your entire ride, no SD card necessary. This should legitimately be a standard for all action cameras moving forward. If it's not, how dare you? Okay, so let's get into some daytime testing because I tested the Action 6 on 3 very different motorcycles, all during daylight scenarios. First up, we have the CF Moto 675 SS. I did some initial testing on this bike since it's the bike I just got in on loan. I wanted to see what kind of shots I could get both with the camera looking back at me and from a POV angle. This is where I really started appreciating that 1x1 angle because from one shot, I can get this for YouTube, and just crop it differently and it looks like I have a camera mounted sideways for TikTok. I also had an Action 5 with me at the same time, so I just put both cameras side by side, and looking at the screens on each camera, I was surprised at how different the colors looked. They seemed way more vibrant on the Action 6. For the next test, I took out my MT10 to really test out the field of view options that the Action 6 has. I'm really particular about needing a pretty wide field of view, especially when I have the camera mounted on my helmet. I want you guys to feel like you're riding there with me, and for that, I need a pretty wide field of view. So, got on my MT10 and I tried a couple different modes just to see what it was capable of. Now, for my testing with all of these modes, I did notice something weird that I can't really explain. If you put the camera in horizontal only mode, which means it's going to shoot a 16:9, so think long form YouTube video, the shot actually seems wider than if you put it in the 1:1 mode. But from what I understand, the 1:1 mode is capturing the entire sensor, so I don't really understand how the horizontal only mode is capturing more, but maybe I'm missing a setting. I'm gonna keep messing with this, but this is the difference that I found. Now next up we have my Tenere 700, which is my off-road adventure bike, and I know a lot of you guys couldn't care less about off-road stuff, so if you want to skip my findings from off-road, here's a timestamp, you can jump to there and we'll skip right past this. So my final daylight test I wanted to do was riding with a buddy off-road. These conditions are super challenging for an action camera because when you're off-road, the sun is just peeking through the trees and you can go from it being very bright to very dark. So these are some of the hardest conditions an action camera is going to be put through. Here is just how much data this new sensor can handle. Even in the most extreme examples, the camera wouldn't blow out the sky, which was super bright, and you still have tons of detail in the shadows. This is hard for even a really nice camera, and the fact that an action camera with this new sensor could do it is really surprising. I mean, you guys can look at this footage for yourself. Look at the direct sun coming onto the path that we're riding, and then all around you have areas that are absolute shadows, but you can actually see detail there. It's really impressive. Now let's get into the really impressive stuff, which is when I took this thing out for a night ride to test it in low light situations. I know a lot of you guys like filming your riding at night, so this is gonna be a big deal for you. Now, I want to be clear, the Action 5 Pro took a major jump in action cameras and shooting at night, and somehow, with this new sensor, the Action 6 is taking it even beyond that. Okay, so I have a quick explanation before I show you guys the riding footage at night. So when I mapped to go downtown, I saw how long it was gonna take to get there, and I started rushing because I needed the light to be changing. So I rushed out of the house, grabbed my gear, grabbed my clamp, threw it on the helmet, and I rolled out of here. It wasn't until I got home that I realized I had made a massive mistake. So on all these helmet reviews I've been doing, I use this. This is the DJI helmet clamp. You clamp it onto the front of the helmet. You can record your motovlogs. No wiring, no nothing. You just clamp it on there. It's what I've been using for all the helmets. This is the one I grabbed. Now you guys are gonna look at this and be like, oh yeah, that looks like that will work. Absolutely, no problem. There is a problem though. So most of the motorcycles I ride are upright nakeds, adventure bikes, blah, 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 blah. This thing works perfectly. Now, I am a prepared individual. I have multiple of these. I have this one for adventure bikes and for naked bikes. And then I have this one. This one is made for super sports and sports bikes where I'm leaned over. The last time I checked, the CF Moto 675 SS is a sport bike. So can you guys see on this one, I have that extra bracket here? That allows me when I'm leaned all the way forward to get the camera upright. And because I grabbed the wrong clamp and I had it on the wrong thing, the camera's looking at the bike the whole time.
What is that? Hell no, man. What the fuck? Get your ass on.
Shame me in the comments, it's fine. You can't hurt me more than I've hurt myself about this. So regardless, I apologize that the footage of my POV during the nighttime riding does not look great, so we'll just take what we can from it. It is what it is, can't do nothing about it. other than punch myself in the face. So to test the camera in low light situations, I decided to take the 675 SS to downtown Atlanta where things actually look cool at night. Now, as you guys can see in this footage, I should have known it was gonna handle it with no problem. Look how cool these shots are. It was actually interesting, while I was shooting these shots of the motorcycle, I kept having to do a double take because I would be looking at the screen of the camera and I was like, wow, this looks great. And then I would look up from the camera screen and it was so much darker than it looked on the screen. The camera was actually making it look brighter outside than it was. So I don't know how I can show you guys this, but it was a very strange situation where I'm like, these guys are gonna watch this video and think the sun's not down yet. I don't know how to show you guys that, but it was impressive regardless. So guys, overall, the footage from the nighttime ride, as you can see, looks great. It's incredible to me how sharp nighttime footage can be, and I'm assuming that's because of the new sensor. A lot of the time when you shoot at night, it gets really mushy and loses a lot of clarity, but this thing keeps that super sharp in what should be a really hard condition. Also, while I was at the Varsity, I figured I'd pull out the GoPro 13 just to get an idea of the difference in the GoPro 13 and the Action 6. Now, keep this in mind, as you guys can see, the Varsity looks super cool and it has a lot of bright lights. So this isn't necessarily a low light situation or comparison, but I just held the Action 6 and the GoPro 13 next to each other and kind of got different shots just to easily compare them. This isn't a full-on comparison between these two cameras. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments and I'll work on a full-on video for that because that's going to take way more time. Another thing that I noticed while I was at the Varsity messing around with the Action 6 is when you have it in the variable aperture mode and you're moving the camera around, you can actually see the number on the screen changing depending on the lighting situation you put it in. That was pretty cool. Okay, so next up, let's talk about this whole 1x1 shooting mode because this is something that got me actually excited. So when I was first looking at the footage with this 1x1 mode, I thought to myself, oh my God, finally. Guys, ever since vertical video on social media started taking off, I have been trying to find a solution for filming horizontally for YouTube, which is my main thing, but getting that footage to TikTok and Instagram and now YouTube Shorts. I have a slightly embarrassing solution that I found that I'm going to show you guys that you'll see. So for a while, I ran this. These are two DJI Action 5 Pros. One is mounted vertically, one is mounted horizontally. Now, for first rides, I would actually run this so that when I posted on TikTok, I could use this one. It would look like it's correct because I have this thing where I hate when a horizontal video is cropped and posted on TikTok. I just think it doesn't look right. I don't love that. So I ran this. I did this for 3 first rides, and between the added weight onto the helmet and the literal double amount of footage, I lasted 3 first rides and I was like, dude, I'm not doing that. My neck is like, I'm gonna be able to qualify for Formula 1 with the neck I was building, riding with this for multiple hours a day. This is not the way. This 1x1 shooting mode is in fact though, the way. So basically what it's doing is it's shooting the entire sensor, which is a square, and that way you can get your horizontal shot cropped out of it, but with the same shot, you have so much more real estate up and down, you can actually get a perfectly formatted TikTok style video from the exact same shot. It is absolutely life-changing. If you are a content creator posting on YouTube long form and on vertical platforms, that is probably one of the biggest deals of this new sensor. Now, I know a lot of you guys are shooting for vertical content only, which is awesome. You guys are absolutely killing it, but one of the things that sucks about doing that is to mount a camera sideways, you have to have a lot of extra brackets, which adds weight to your helmet and also looks like shit. I think we can all agree with that. The reason you have to add all those brackets most of the time is because most helmet mounts are created for cameras to be mounted to your helmet like this. One of the cool things that the Action 6 can do because of that square sensor is that you can just place the camera like this, change the mode into vertical mode, and it will shoot a vertical video with the camera mounted like this. You don't have to change the rotation of the camera anymore to get that same look, which is really freaking cool. That being said, if you have a setup that you really like where your camera is mounted vertically, the camera can obviously shoot in that way and it'll automatically rotate. So just in case you really like the way you setup you got, you can still use it. Okay, next up, let's talk about what's probably the biggest deal for motovloggers using DJI products, and that's what DJI is now calling their Osmo audio ecosystem. Basically, all that means is their action cameras syncing up with their microphones, and if I'm a plant a flag anywhere, when it comes to wireless audio, DJI has the best, bar none, audio devices for motovlogging in helmets. The Action 6 is compatible with that ecosystem, and what that is the Mic Mini, the Mic 2, and newly the Mic 3s, which are absolutely amazing. As you guys can see, when I was unboxing all the Action 6 stuff that DJI sent out, they actually sent their Mic 3s, and life-changing. I love them. They are the size of the Mic Mini and they have the capability of the Mic 2. Mind was blown. If you guys want me to do a full review on the Mic 3s, just let me know, but these are probably my favorite DJI product ever. And I mean ever. Alright guys, let's talk about something that's very important when it comes to action cameras, and that's the reliability that I've noticed with the Action 6 throughout the last couple weeks that I've been using it. This camera has not crashed, glitched, frozen, or overheated through any of the stuff I have done on this thing. I've ridden with it off-road where there's dirt and sand and vibrations. I've ridden through it through 30-degree temperatures at night. I've done extremely long highway stints. I've left it run in a room with no ventilation for hours to test for the battery, and I have not had it hiccup one single time. I honestly just want to give DJI props because since the Action 4, which is the first action camera from them that I really started using like as a primary action camera, I have had such a good experience with all of their cameras. I want you guys to remember the whole reason I even stopped using GoPros was because of the reliability issues. The camera would just stop. It would freeze, I would lose footage, and as a guy who has a really crammed schedule, I don't really have the opportunity to go out and film something and just hope that I have my footage when I come back. And from the Action 4 to the Action 5 to the Action 6 now, there have been no hiccups. I've lost no footage. I've had no cameras die, and that kind of reliability in an action camera is worth its weight in gold. And I really appreciate that. I haven't had any issues with the Action 6. As I'm saying, I've only been riding in it for 2 weeks, but I've spent the last 2 years using action cameras from DJI and I've had no problems, so feel really confident in the reliability of this thing. Also, we gotta consider the fact that we're riding motorcycles. We are putting these cameras out in the elements at super high speed. Depending on the type of rider you are, you might have very adverse conditions. The camera you choose is gonna be put through a lot. So we gotta pick the right cameras when we're choosing our little arsenal for capturing our rides. All right, here's some rapid fire stuff that we can hit on real quick so we don't forget. First is this new quick release. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Then I started using it with these little tabs. It makes it so much easier to remove the camera with the little tabs here. You can also mount the camera in the front or the back here. That hasn't really been a big deal for me, but being able to get the camera off more easily has been huge. Also, in case you're heavily invested in the DJI battery ecosystem, this is compatible with the old mounts along with the old batteries. Even though I've only been testing it for 2 weeks, I did forget to use an SD card on one of the Action 6s that I was filming in. Luckily, I had that internal storage, so literally in 2 weeks, it's already saved my butt. Also, the construction of the body is the same style material the Action 5 was. It feels very rugged. I have dropped it a couple times and have had no problems. Thank God. The user interface hasn't really changed that much. I find DJI's to be probably my favorite one for going through the settings and changing stuff around. It just makes it super simple to make changes and makes it very easy to find out what those changes are. All right, so guys, let's talk about who this camera is for. And if we're gonna be honest, if you already own an Action 5 Pro, you don't need an Action 6. Unless Unless that 1x1 shooting mode is actually gonna solve a workflow problem that you're having. Or if you ride at night and you're posting to multiple platforms like YouTube longform and on TikTok, then the Action 6 is also gonna make sense. So basically, if you're a moto creator, this camera fits into the workflow extremely well. Now guys, before we wrap up, if you're watching this video, I'm gonna make the assumption that you're either interested in starting motovlogging or you're interested in upgrading your motovlogging setup, and I have been quietly working on something for you guys. Now, this is the biggest project I've ever worked on. It's taking me over 2 years, but the good news is I'm getting very close to launching it. If you guys want to be one of the first people to know when it gets launched, there's a sign up link in the description down below. Now, I don't have any details. I can't give you guys anything right now, but let's just say if you're interested in motovlogging, you definitely want to sign up down below. Alrighty guys, that's all I got for my first impressions of the Action 6. You guys let me know what you thought of all the footage I showed you guys in the comments down below. And if you guys have any questions, let me know down there and I'll do my best to get to you on those. You guys let me know, would you want to see the comparison between the Action 6 and the GoPro 13? And do you want to see that full-on Mic 3 review? These are just such awesome products to be using these days. If you guys want a full-on video, I'll do my best to make it for you. Guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. You guys enjoy riding on whatever you're riding out there and film your content. Motorcycling is awesome. Share it with the world. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.